This is Taking Care of Business with Marty Pay and Clay Kerner on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. Taking Care of Business is brought to you by Alliance Brokers and Consultants and Human Resources Outsourcing Incorporated. Now, here are your local business professionals ready to help you take care of business. Marty and Clay.
Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180 with your host Clay Kerner, and I'm Marty Pay. Clay, I wanted to start out by thanking Zach Scribner and Michael Turnipseed for coming in to talk about the unions and the Wisconsin story last week. Great show. And I think that's the first salvo in what's going to be a huge battle that's probably going to be fought state by state. We've got some incredible... Shame! Hey, listen, you took the pill early. You're going to be awake through the first half of the show. That's a good thing. We've got some incredible guests lined up, but we've got to wait till next week to make some announcements, only because there's some time disputes we have with one or two of our guests that we have to work out. But one guest in particular I'm excited about. In fact, I was talking to Clay. He and I were talking on the phone. I looked at the clock and went, we just did a 45-minute show just talking back and forth about Afghanistan. This gentleman knows more about Afghanistan after 9/11 than I think anybody else in the country. But today we've got one of the bright spots in a very dark Sacramento in our studio, our own 32nd Assemblywoman, Shannon Grove. Shannon, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Shannon, is there any truth to the rumor that you and Gene Fuller and Connie Conway will be heading to Las Vegas, kind of like, the Democrats, because they're the minority in Wisconsin, heading to Illinois where it's minus 20. Are you guys going to be leaving the state?
No, no truth to that. You have myself, Gene, Connie, and a lot of Valley legislators that are women, and we are going to put a flag in the ground and fight.
Boy, I love that attitude. But, if I were going to flee the state, I'd rather go to Las Vegas than go to Illinois where it was minus 20, But what do you think of that?
I think that's a downright shame. We're elected by, I know I'm elected for almost representing almost 500,000 people, and we have a job to do. And whether you like the conditions or not, I certainly don't like the conditions in Sacramento, but I go up there and do the job that the people sent me to do. So I think those people that are hiding out need to go back and do the job that they were elected to do.
Mm-hmm. When we were we were all at the Lincoln dinner a couple weeks ago.
We were.
Yeah, and Sean Duffy, is that his name from Wisconsin? He was talking about how, I guess, the Assembly flipped in this last election, the governor flipped, one of these Senate seats flipped.
Actually, every house in the nation flipped except ours. It flipped the opposite direction.
Right.
California State Assembly was the only house that lost a seat.
But when it comes to Wisconsin, everything flipped, and now these guys can't put up with the fact that they're in the minority, so they're taking their chips and they're going home.
I'm so sad for them.
Yes. Isn't that sad?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of the union conflict and what's going on? Do you think that's something that's going to be...
I think that it definitely needs to be resolved. As long as we keep doing our budgets like we're doing them and have done them for years, we're just kicking the can down the road. We were here a few years ago asking taxpayers to submit to tax increases, and now we are asking them to do that again, or they're trying to get us to ask to do taxpayers to vote on tax increases again. But the real structural problem is unions. California itself faces almost a $700 billion unfunded pension liability, and we aren't doing anything to address that. And I look at Wisconsin, and what's theirs, $3 billion in the hole. We're $27 billion in the hole, and so I praise Wisconsin's governor for taking a stand and making sure that this structural thing takes place, so that we don't have to deal with this, or at least Wisconsin won't have to deal with it down the road.
Sure, and the battle's going to Ohio this week, so it's just
Absolutely.
a question of time before it spreads on. What's going on this week with the vote on Brown's budget plan?
Well, I was told to bring a pillow and a blanket because apparently the clock comes off the wall and they stop the clock until people crack. So that's the understanding that I get. They stop time, and apparently that's the speaker's job to do that. There are a lot of budget bills that are coming forward. There's the main one, and then there's a lot of significant trailer bills. But what's interesting about the bills that come forward, like the one we saw last week, just says an enactment to enact the budget. There's no language. You don't know what you're voting on. It's just almost, it's the Senate sent us, I believe, 60 empty bills, and we sent them 60 empty bills. So, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous up there. There's, great. That's what I said.
Incredible. Is this going to be the end of the redevelopment agencies?
If this passes, yes. and that's sad. Tehachapi, a lot of redevelopment dollars are significantly important to our small communities. But I can tell you that sitting on committees and listening to what's going on in Sacramento, any state, local, or special district that has any money at all, the state's coming after it. Whether it's redevelopment, whether it's special districts, they're coming after everybody's money. And they're moving money to new fund, they're moving money to new fund projects. We took money from ratepayers a few years ago. The legislature took money from ratepayers a few years ago for the PACE program and said it was for solar for their homes because of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the housing market crashes. So now they've taken that money and they've moved it to electric cars. And we vote no. I said give it back to the ratepayer. And so they just take money from whatever pot they can get it in. And I was at a committee hearing the other day on e-waste, and I asked about this $83 million transaction, and they said, oh, that's money we loan the general fund. But yet they want to increase our cost for e-waste when we are a purchaser or consumer to buy product to supplement the loss in their fund. But they gave $83 million to the general fund. Just don't give the general fund any money. I mean, they're getting money every way they can, and I wish it was illegal, or we could find a way that it was illegal and stop them.
Now, when it comes to the redevelopment funds, you'd mentioned something off the air. You were talking about the fact that they are going to make it retro back to an earlier date.
No, the personal income tax. I apologize. The personal income
okay.
tax that they have in this budget process. Taxes have already expired. Everybody has a little extra money in their take-home pay because the personal income tax expired on January 1st. But they're going to make that retroactive back.
Okay. But the redevelopment money will be effective probably in July
as soon as they got their budget passed. If the tax, they're counting on this being part of the taxpayer vote to increase taxes.
Right. Because a lot of the cities have decided to spend the money just in case something happens, and I know Governor Braun was threatening to go back to January 10th. If he does, there's going to be a lot of cities with a big empty hole in their pocketbook.
I think the cities need to go tell Governor Braun to pound sand. I really do. They're taking, it's ridiculous. Every day it seems like they come up with these more ridiculous items. And when you look at the budget bill, I know the budget is extremely important right now, but there are almost 2,000 bills following this budget. Bills like employers can't discriminate against employees under the influence of marijuana, minimum wage bills with an automatic COLA increase, a bill that is a higher tax bracket for people that make over $250,000 a year, regulatory requirements to improve CEQA, so improve in the bad way, to make CEQA more detrimental to employers. Bills are just coming down that are going to be atrociously horrible for Californians.
Who's writing all these bills?
Those liberal Democrats up there.
Why do you say liberal Democrats?
Well, because there are some Democrats like... there are some in the building. Henry Perea, I think, is a business advocate, and he's a Democrat. But I found a lot of common ground with him on business issues. I voted for his tax credit bill that he put on the floor on Thursday. It's a great thing for business and a great thing, a great item for individuals, private citizens. And so I think that he would be, someone that we could count on as far as business issues. But we're new in the process, but he is proving to be someone that we can count on. Liberal Democrats, they want you to not drive. They don't like oil. They don't like energy. They want to put regulations on employers like these regulations I have listed in front of me for one single employer that answers to almost 41 different regulatory agencies.
Oh, incredible. Let's talk about that in a minute when we get
Sure.
back. We're having a conversation with Assemblywoman Shannon Grove on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.